everyone, and welcome to another episode of NFI Hammer. In this episode, what I'll be painting is the April miniature of the month. Now, I've done 2 miniatures of the month prior to this, but they just gave you a little sprue to take home. This month, they gave me this cool little box. Let me show you why they did that and what's inside. So the reason why it came in a box and not a sprue is that they actually in store had the sprues for multiple models. So this is an Assault Intercessor, and there was a 10-pack sprue there. So in the store they actually had clippers and glue and everything, and you could build it yourself and assemble it in store. And then once the glue had dried, you could put it into one of these boxes and you were off. One thing that I learnt that was different from all the other miniatures that I've been painting is that each of these are sort of additional add-ons, like the little seal, the belt buckle, all of these sort of guns and everything are all customizable. The miniatures that I'd painted before, like this one, that was kind of glued, was one segment, and so there was no flexibility or choice. Even though I ended up kind of making this guy very similar to the one I had at home, there's a lot more flexibility around, what sort of kit you want him to be loaded out with. The heads as well had a lot of different variety. So I was quite impressed with that. I hadn't really experienced any of that, especially with the Necrons. They're very sort of uniform. So yeah, it's definitely something cool and different that I hadn't experienced before. So I needed to clean up the model a bit. I didn't really have too much time to spend in the store because I was on my lunch break. So there was a little bit of the sprues still left on that I didn't get to. And now I'm just using some grey spray paint. I've been using grey pretty exclusively, unless the model's heavily black or white. And this is the finished product. So already it looks pretty cool. I think, being able to choose what kit you want on the model is a really interesting idea. So these, I'm using Macragge Blue, but I bought some ceramic baking beads because people have been telling me to use a paint agitator like ball bearings, and I looked up online and they're quite expensive, and I just saw this at Kohl's, so I thought I'd buy it and use it, and it seems to be working pretty well, but let me know in the comments if I'm doing something totally wrong. So I'm just applying this blue cover to the entire model. This is one of the longest parts it took me, and so that's why I'm doing it 16 times speed times 2. So I'm really rushing through it. But I'm noticing that my brushwork is getting a little bit better, and a lot of the tips in the comments was don't worry about painting things that you don't want to, stay blue, because if you paint everything in the model, there's no awkward gaps, and I've been having an issue having to go back and, fill in the gaps. So this is the black paint. So I decided to do this color next, to kind of paint some of the details. And so I'm painting his chainsword black. In my original model I painted the whole thing silver, but I've since learned that black is a much more normal color. And I'm also painting the soles of the shoes black, which I didn't do on my first model. But I'm just noticing that my brushwork is just becoming a little bit more comfortable, and I'm making less mistakes and getting paint in less of the wrong places. However, I still do that a lot, but I'm just getting a little bit more comfortable now that I've been doing this hobby for a couple of months now. And for some reason I decided I wanted to do his little oath seal thing on his leg. So I don't know why. Usually I leave these little details till the end, but I didn't really know what color to do next, so I just thought I'd get this out the way. But you can see I've already put paint on his leg. He's also got these saint bones, so I was wanting to paint them. And I used to really struggle with just getting the paint on the risen edges, but I'm seeming to do an okay job here. It's not perfect, but it's definitely a lot better than what I used to do. So I'm just giving it another bit of a coat, just covering everything. And then I thought, well, since I've done the paper of the seal, I might as well do the, skull wax seal as well with red. So I'm using Mephiston Red, but you can see on the right there that it's way too watery, and the second I put it on the model I realized, and I tried to correct my mistake, and all I did was get it everywhere. So I tried to get some paper towel, which took away some of the damage, but I did get quite a lot over his leg. But I'd already had the Rkarth Flesh on his leg as well, so I was already going to have to come back. So I added some more paint, so it wasn't so watery, and I'm just trying to get the edges, but not get too much over the blue, so it's less cover-up work. But yeah, again, I normally don't do these little details until the last step because of this sort of getting paint everywhere and stuff, but I just thought since it's kind of quite separate from the rest of the model, it should be okay. So now I'm doing the Leadbelcher. So on this, it's really just his weapons. So just the teeth of the sword. I did get a little bit of silver on the black. I had to come back later and try and touch that up. And I did the hilt silver, even though I think the hilt is meant to be gold. But I'm only realizing now when I'm rewatching the video that I did it in silver. So I'm just doing the extra details, such as the thrusters and the bottom of his ammo bag, and just little details over the model. And yeah, I'm really I'm still making a mess, but it's definitely less of a mess. And I'm doing even these little screw holes and divots in the suit. I also does his belt buckle in silver, even though I don't think he meant to. And I did his sort of mask on his face in silver as well, just because I felt like it was more of a metallic vibe. So then I moved on to Rhinox Hide to do basically his hair. I thought would make sense being, a darker color to contrast with the flesh, but I immediately get some on his face, which I was trying to avoid. I think I might be using the wrong type of brush here. I think it's like a detailer with a really long tip, but I'm finding it hard to kind of control where the paint's going. And I'm getting a lot, where I'm trying not to. But overall, I didn't really get any on the mask headset thing that he's wearing, so that was pretty good. And the detail of the hair is really hard to see. So this is my flesh color that I used on my Chaos World Eater Jackal, which I ruined multiple times, and I'm applying it here on his face. But as I'm putting it on, I'm having a realization the paleness of this flesh color is going to be really noticeable more in this model, just because of the dark rich blue and the dark hair. His skin being almost white color is going to be really intense. But I didn't alter course and I was trying to do one drop of additional paint, but I somehow ended up doing a lot of paint from the dropper bottle. I don't know how I managed that. So yeah, I'm just trying to cover the face, and I'm soaking up some excess paint because I've ended up putting it on way too thick because of that big dollop. I didn't really water it down properly. And so now I'm trying to put some white paint, for his eyes. But because this pale skin is so white, it's really hard to tell. And I can kind of do this right, his left, but right on the screen, eyeball okay. But I was really struggling with this left one. I couldn't really kind of figure out why the brush wasn't working, and it wasn't really being a symmetrical look. So it becomes apparent later in the video what I was doing wrong, which is pretty funny. So I'm just touching up the hair because I ended up getting a little bit of white paint. And apologies for the blurriness here. My camera's decided to focus onto my cat scratched hands. So I'm trying to do some eyebrows with the thing, but they're so thick that it ends up looking like he has black giant eyes. It's not so noticeable on the camera, but yeah, in person they look really kind of ridiculous. So I'm like, maybe I should have picked a different head model, like just a normal helmet one, for when I was at the Warhammer store. So I'm kind of having some regret. But I'm trying to do pupils, and I'm trying to use this technique of using a toothpick, but it's really not working. So if anyone has any ideas how to help me do eyeballs, would be appreciated. So I've got this Bugman's Glow, and everyone tells me that it's meant to be like an undercoat for skin. But I think it has this good kind of leathery look. Because the Rhinox Hide is much too dark. It's almost like a black color. So I find that it works okay for these kind of satchels and ammo cases. But that's just me. Feel free, obviously, to use whatever color you want. And if someone has some suggestion in between Rhinox Hide and this, please let me know. So I decided that the face was too white. So I thought I'd do a Bugman's Glow undercoat since I already had the paint out, and then paint the pale flesh over the top. And hopefully that will give him more of a darker appearance. And so I'm just going over the whole face, all the eyeballs, all the eyebrows, everything I had done, I just completely erased because it was really bugging me, pun not intended, that the face just did not look right, being that pale. And so now I've mixed some Bugman's Glow with the pale flesh to get what I think is a little bit more human, Caucasian looking paint color that I was trying to go for originally, that is less white. So I'm reapplying that here, but now this is the third coat of paint that I put on the model, and some of those coats weren't very thin because I'd accidentally got too much out. So a lot of the detail in the face has kind of been lost by the layers and layers of paint that I'm putting on. And then I'm trying to put the white eye in, but again, the left eye, you can't see it so much in the video, but there's something about this left eye on the screen, his right eye, that just is not working. Like when I put the paint on, it kind of looks like an eyebrow or a ball, and I'm like, what is going on? And it's driving me a little bit crazy. But I've already done so many paints of coat on the face, I'm like, I didn't want to keep going, but I was so close because I was quite happy with this shade of skin color, so I didn't want to lose that. And yeah, I'm just going over and over it again, and it's not working. And the more I do it, the worse it looks. But I ended up just putting the eyebrows back on again, and yeah, I keep trying to like get that whiteness of the eye, and yeah, there's just something off about it. It doesn't show very clearly in the video, but the more paint I put on, the worse and worse it looks. And I've kind of lost my mind with crazy insanity at this point, trying to figure it out. So I just make a deal with myself to just be like, I've just got to move on. Like, I can't spend more time on this face. I just got to accept that it looks weird. So I get the Rhinox Hide out again, and I'm just doing the sides of the belt that kind of go around the sides. It looks pretty similar to black, so you can use whatever color you want. And then I'm cracking out the gold. Artemis is coming to say hello. And I was trying not to get the gold too much onto the chest and just keep it on the aquila, or whatever it's called, the crest. And at first I was really worried that I'd got the paint too wet and it was going to go over everything, but it ended up being okay. And then I'm doing the container of the saint bones on his belt, as well as the rims. I've had to move the model away from Artemis at the top so he doesn't attack it, but then you can't really see it on the camera. So apologies for that. So I'm going around the trim, and I'm getting a lot better at doing the edges of the trim. I did get some gold where I wasn't meant to. So now I'm using the Fleshshade. So this was the color I bought for the Jackal skin color, but the guy at the Warhammer store said that it kind of looks good on on gold to make it kind of look like a rose gold. It brings out a little bit of richness in it, so I think it doesn't look too bad. And then cracking out the trusty Nuln Oil. So now I've kind of learnt that with the Nuln Oil, that you kind of put it into the gaps where there will be natural shadow, but you don't have to necessarily go over the entire model with it. So I'm kind of just focusing on the areas where there's any crevices, and I think it has a much better look. And then this is just like an additional step that I just kind of decided last minute, but I was going to paint the base this yellow with some of that Mephiston Red that I had left over. And the reason why is when I was basing it, sometimes there's gaps around the sides that are still visible if the sand doesn't cover it perfectly. So I thought if I do that, you won't notice it. So I've just put some PVA glue and dipping it into my expensive sand. Just tapping off any excess here. And that's it, kind of the basing done. So that was pretty easy. I thought I'd add some tufts of grass as well. So I thought I'd do 2 tufts. I've never done 2 in a model before, so I thought you don't want them all to look exactly the same, like carbon copies. So I'm doing it here, but because I'm trying to show it on the camera, I've come at it at a weird angle, and there's a big glob of glue just sitting on the leg. So I've got to try and fix that. Even though it dries clear, I just didn't want to, add any extra texture to the model unnecessarily. And so the trick I found with the grass is if you kind of shape it roughly into a tuft and then put it on, rather than like sprinkling it, it kind of looks more like a shrub or a tree, rather than just random bits of grass just sticking in every direction. It's kind of hard to tell from this angle, but later you'll see what I mean. But yeah, just kind of manipulate it into like up and down. And then I'm doing a second one here because there wasn't really that much in the first one. And then when you tip it upside down, gravity will help pull those grass things upright. Well, I guess upside down. And so when you turn the model the right way around, they're sticking up. So after a couple of hours of letting it dry, just tap off any loose bits of grass and done. So they kind of look like little tufts, but they're a lot cheaper than buying the individual ones. And I think it kind of has an okay look to it. So that's what the model's looking like now. Really happy with how it's turning out, except for the face. And I wasn't happy with the satchels. I put too much Nuln Oil on them. So they were quite dark and just looked weird. So just repainting that to make it look a bit fresher. And the eye just got to me, like, it didn't look too bad on the video, but in real life it looked really weird. And I think it was just driving me insane. So I've decided to repaint his face for the 4th time now. And what I realized was I went back to my earlier footage, and I'll show you a picture now, but his head from the original model didn't have an eye at all there. There was always a patch or a little visor, and it wasn't an eye, but somewhere I missed that in the painting. And I just assumed that he had 2 eyes. So this whole time I was trying to paint something that physically didn't exist. So instead I kind of gave him this leather patch eye thing. But I think the color is too similar to his like hair color, and it kind of just looks like I've disfigured like blood blister or something disgusting on his face. But because I've done so many layers of paint by now, and like thick layers of paint, his face has just gone from salvageable to unsalvageable. So again, I'm trying to put this eye here for like the 4th time. And it's really sad because on one side of his face, I was pretty happy with. It was just that other side I couldn't get right. And so, yeah, anyway, lesson learned there is like pay real close attention to the heads of your models. Don't just assume you know what's under there. And then I also wanted to just go over this parchment oath thing, because it didn't really look like paper after I'd covered it with Nuln Oil. So I just did some white outline and some lines, but I was kind of really happy with the model. And then I realized that on the gold, I had dropped some paint on, and I got really upset at this point because I had failed at the face. I was really happy with the gold, and then I had somehow managed to ruin it. And so I got a wet brush. There's nothing on the brush, just trying to like loosen up the paint. And yeah, I think I was just really upsetting at this point to, you know, I felt like I was failing, and everything I was doing was just going from bad to worse. But I managed to kind of scrape off any of the excess paint because it was really dried on and was really like a big gloop of it. So once I'd kind of got it back to normal, I was able to then repaint the blue where the white paint had gotten to. And I just touched up a few of the other areas from the Nuln Oil that I didn't want there. So I was feeling a little bit better now. I was like, okay, I can recover from this. But for a while there, I was really like disappointed and upset with myself for making such a bad mistake. And then I just put some more gold on to touch up the area. And it ended up looking okay. Like I kind of recovered, I think. And then I just thought I'd paint the base. I used Abaddon Black and Macragge Blue, but it really just looks very close to black. And I'm also realizing now, rewatching the video, that I'm holding the model. I forgot to put it back on its little stand, so I know that's a no-no in some circles. But overall, for a free model, it was a lot of fun, even though I'm pretty sure I lost my mind. And this is what it looks like. So I'm really happy with all the details and all the colors and all the lines. I'm really not happy with the face, but I think I've learned a really important lesson there around understanding what your model looks like and not making assumptions. And I think I'm probably not advanced enough to do like faces, so I should really stick to the helmet models. And yeah, thank you for watching and listening to me lose my mind. I went a bit crazy there painting the video, and I went a bit crazy narrating the video. But yeah, if you have any suggestions or hints or tips, I'm very open to them. Please leave a comment below. And if you could subscribe as well, it's free. I really appreciate it. I just hit 250 subscribers, so that's very exciting. Anyway, I think next I will try and add some transfers onto the shoulders, as well as maybe do some edge highlighting, which I've never done before. So that's exciting. See how I go and how I manage to mess it up. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Surprise post-credits scene. I went back to the earliest footage of the model, and his eye is completely normal. So I think it was maybe some spray paint that didn't a bit thick and clogged up his eye, and then each layer I put on just made it worse and worse. So yeah, I guess it's me, I'm the problem.